My first question, you might not like, and it's going to make you think hard, and it's probably something you don't want to do. But my first question really is, what was that penalty you missed? Who was it against, and why did you miss it?
Well, it was the 24th of March 1993. It was against Nottingham Forest, and Mark Crosley was in goal. And he got lucky. Simple as that.
Simple as that. Just so you're not taking any blame for that. You're just saying the goalie got lucky.
He actually made a nice little move where he feinted to go one side and then flung himself the other way, and he timed his little move just right, and I fell for it, and he saved it. But the worst bit about it was that he actually parried the ball straight back to me, and I think I was in so much shock that I'd actually missed a penalty that from about 7 yards out, I managed to hit the ball over the crossbar with my left foot. So I was more embarrassed about missing the rebound than I was about missing the penalty.
So what is it about penalties that is really? I mean, I understand it's stressful. You walk up to that spot, everyone's staring at you, all the pressure's on you. There's no pressure on the goalie because the goalie is expected to let it in. Why have England and why do some players fluff that moment when they're professional football players?
It's a good question, and I think for me, it's a question of mentality. I think the thing about taking penalties is you have to want to be there, and I think you can often watch penalty shootouts and you can see in people's eyes as they're walking up to the penalty spot, they don't want to be there. They're not looking forward to this moment. And if you go into it with that attitude, then there's a higher chance that you're going to miss penalties. And I think that's just been one of our massive problems, is that we haven't had enough players who look forward to taking penalties.
Mike Tyson said something similar about when he got into the ring in his early days. He said he'd look at the opponent and they looked scared stiff and they'd already been beaten before the bell had even rung. And I suppose that's why we have things like sports psychologists. And I think it's also harder these days because I'm not being disrespectful to modern day footballers, but life's a lot easier for them than it's ever been. I mean, they're multimillionaires at 21. What do they know about pressure and stress and life?
No, that's a very good point. I do look back on my penalty taking and think that I was very much I don't know if it was something to do with my ego, my big headedness, but I loved the fact that a penalty is being taken. I'm the one taking it, and everybody in the stadium is looking at me right at that moment. And I enjoyed that pressure. And for me, scoring goals was the best thing about being a professional footballer. So a free shot from 12 yards against a goalkeeper was the easiest chance that I was going to get to score a goal in the whole match. So that's kind of why I looked forward to it. And that was my mentality going into it. And I don't think enough players take that mentality into the penalty taking.
No, very, very interesting. What's your take on the wages now, the salaries of footballers? Because I take it you weren't paid 72 million a year to play.
Not quite, no. I actually, I think when I retired in 2002, I was on £3,500 a week, which is a very lovely wage. Don't get me wrong, but it's probably a lot less than what a lot of people thought I was on at that stage. But at the end of the day, I signed those contracts with Southampton Football Club because I was happy to. So I have no complaints about the money that I earned during my career, and I have no complaints about the players earning the money that they do these days. I think it's a bit strange that football clubs would choose to pay that amount of money. But I don't blame the players for 1 second for taking it. I mean, who's going to go into a job and go, actually, yeah, don't give me that much money, I'll take a bit less? There's not many people that do that.
Oh, of course, and it's market forces. I understand that, and I don't blame the players. But do you think those high wages are damaging the game in any way?
Yeah, I do. I do think there's. I think that not only are they damaging the game, I think sometimes they damage the individual players themselves, because I think they've got access to far too many funds, and with that, it brings great temptations, and some players are not able to resist those temptations. And I think, especially for the younger players, I do think that there should be some kind of limit as to how much money they can get their hands on, and perhaps a portion of those wages should be deferred until they're a little bit older and a little bit more sensible to be able to deal with those kind of figures that are coming in on a monthly basis.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. The ages of some of the football players who deserve the money because it's open market forces, but
Yep.
we can see it in the papers every couple of months. It destroys some players. It's just too much too soon. They develop a godlike complex. You know, we have football players in court almost monthly now for rape, and it's that Midas touch. They get what they think they want, and what they get is killing them and destroying them.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And it's the other point that I'd probably make is that sometimes having so much so young as well just takes away a little bit of the edge of players when they don't really have to work hard anymore. They know not going to have to work another day in their life once they finish playing football. So why are they going to push themselves? Why are they going to? Because that's why I think you see so many young players who come through really exciting, and you think, wow, this is going to be the next big thing, and then all of a sudden they kind of tail off and they end up not quite getting to where you thought they were going to get to, and you have to look at that and think, well, is that because all the money that they've got, it just takes the edge off of them, and they don't really then have the desire to go and want to make themselves as best as they can be. And obviously there are players like Ronaldo and players like that who are incredibly professional and will get every ounce out of the ability that they've got. But there's a lot at the other end of the spectrum that kind of fall by the wayside, having showed so much potential, and then really don't go on to fulfill the things that we expect of them in their careers.
Am I right in saying that sounds a lot like what Rocky in the movie says, "Eye of the tiger"? You lose that drive, you lose that I don't know what it is, but he calls it the eye of the tiger.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely right. It is that inner burning desire, certainly that I had as a kid to want to be a professional footballer. And that didn't lessen for me during my career because I didn't have enough money to last me for the rest of my life and never have to work again. So I think there is definitely some merit in that argument.
Yeah. Why am I going to go into that tackle 110% when I could break my leg? I'm already a multi-millionaire. Why am I going to run the length of that pitch for a hopeless ball? I'm already a multi-millionaire. Does it matter? And I think that sort of attitude sneaks in so slowly, no one sees it.
No, I think it's right. It's something that's never really talked about amongst pundits on the television either.
Yeah. And you, from what I read, started your football career on the YTS scheme, which for people who don't know, that was a government scheme in the 80s because unemployment was so high to get kids straight from school into any job, and the government would pay the employer. Was it about £40 a week, something like that, just to get you to give you a job?
That would have been quite high. I was on £26 a week when I first started. So we did an apprenticeship that was meant to last 2 years, but it really kind of lasted till your 18th birthday, which for me was only about 16 months. So the first year I was on £26 a week, and the second year I got a massive rise to £35 a week. But I was only on that for about 4 months, and then I signed my first professional contract at Southampton in 1986, which was a 2-year contract, which I signed for £100 a week for the first year. And I got a huge rise to £120 a week in my second year.
And that makes you work hard. When you've earned nothing and you're still working full time and you have drive, you have ambition, and you know you're only going to get more when you prove yourself and you push yourself. That's how we created in the 80s brilliant football players like you.
No, thank you very much, mate.
Right, let's change the subject because I'm not a huge football fan, and that's probably the limit of my football conversation just there in those 5 minutes. So I don't want to embarrass myself anymore.